Hi, welcome back to the Keys History and Discovery Center for our Thursday edition of What's in the Museum. I'm Brad Bertelli. I'm the curator of the Keys History and Discovery Center in Islamorada. And today we're going to talk about a little bit about my favorite island in the Florida Keys, Indian Key, which is an amazing little hidden gem of history. Today it's a state park. It's the Keys' only ghost town. You can actually go out to the island and walk around some of the old roads and see some of the ruins of what was once a thriving community. But today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the early names for the island. The earliest name on record is Cayuela de las Matanzas. It's based on this Matanza theme that comes from, Matanza is the Spanish word for slaughter. So Little Slaughter Key was the English translation of the island. There are several variations of this that appear in the records. It first appears in 1733 on a map of some of the wrecked ships for the 1733 treasure fleet. It's been called Matanza. It's been called Frenchman's Key, Frenchman's Cay, French Cay, Matanka, which is kind of an English bastardization of the island, of the name Matanza. And the idea of Matanza, or slaughter, comes from the legend of a group of French sailors who were who survived a shipwreck and were trapped on the island and then were summarily killed by a group of Calusa Indians. There is no, it's a legend. It's told by a couple of people back in the 1800s, late 1700s, that kind of perpetuated the story, but there's no actual verification of that event. What it probably goes back down to is the story of Pedro Menendez, who we talked about last week, who did in fact slaughter several hundred French sailors, French naval soldiers actually, up by St. Augustine, the St. John's River, up the coast. And he is later associated with the Florida Keys, and it's possible that his persona or his story gets mixed up with the Indian Key story. But one of the, in 1775 is the first time that the name Indian Key shows up on a chart. And that is one of three names that shows up on the 1775 chart. The Bahamian sailors called the island Cape Comfort. And this is really kind of a cool part of the Indian Key story. And the island was called Cape Comfort for four really significant reasons. First of all, Indian Key is located about midway along the Florida Reef. You figure the reef ends in the dry Tortugas, some 70 miles southwest of Key West, and the corals really start to pick up off the ground around the Fort Lauderdale area, and here we are about the midpoint. A second reason for the term Cape Comfort is the island once upon a time had a natural deep harbor here where ships could approach the island. A third reason, and a significant reason, one of the reasons that Indian Key became such an essential place for European sailors and others to stop at the island was there was a nearby fresh water source. Now, fresh water in the Florida Keys is not, there's not a lot of fresh water in the Florida Keys, natural springs. But on nearby Lower Matacumbe Key, in what is essentially the parking lot of what's today's Robbie's Marina, there were once 5 freshwater wells about 4 feet deep. And they were considered by some to be the most reliable source of fresh water in all of the Florida Keys. But perhaps the biggest reason why the Bahamians called the island Cape Comfort is historically it has a reputation for remaining relatively mosquito-free. The island is about a mile offshore. The Atlantic winds kind of keep the mosquitoes at bay, so they can't reach Indian Key. There's no fresh water on the island, so there's no place for the mosquitoes to reproduce. And in a time, way before mosquito control, when these mosquitoes would descend, these big black clouds of buzzing mosquitoes, it would be nice to go to a place where you didn't have to worry about this attack of mosquitoes. And to add some perspective on how bad mosquitoes could be, there were times sometimes in the year where, like the cattle down in Key West or Stock Island, they would suffocate. The mosquitoes become so thick inside the nostrils of these animals that they couldn't breathe, and they would actually suffocate. And so you can imagine how nice it would be to be able to come to an island and not have to worry about getting your life sucked out of you either by suffocation or by blood with these thirsty clouds of buzzing mosquitoes descending upon you. And but the last name associated with the island, of course, Indian Key is what we know it by today. It's an amazing island. We're going to come back to this particular exhibit on a number of occasions because I could sit here and talk for hours and hours about my favorite island in the Florida Keys. There's a tremendous amount of history, and we're going to delve into that over the course of the next several weeks or for however long this madness continues. In the meantime, stay tuned tonight on Discovery Channel at 9 o'clock. There's a new show called Rob Riggle, Global Investigator, and I filmed for the show back in June down at Captain Tony's Saloon in Key West, and he's going to explore the legend of the pirate Black Caesar. He's looking for the pirate's treasure. Good luck with that. But it's going to be a fun episode. He's a funny guy. He's a comedian and actor, and hopefully I don't make a big idiot out of myself on camera. And so Discovery Channel, 9 o'clock, Rob Riggle, Search of Pirate Booty. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you back here on Tuesday. Remember, Monday is Blake going to be feeding some lionfish. And in the meantime, stay safe, and thank you so much for joining us.